We're heading back to Jersey, New Jersey that is, to visit with Jonah Tolchin and talk to him about his new album, Lava Lamp, a record he describes as more gritty and edgy.
So my understanding is, this record, Lava Lamp, is kind of a product of you and a guy named Nick Coolidge and your drummer, Kevin Clifford, just the three of you. So what was your approach going into making this record? What was your thought process like?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts about that. One is that I'm a producer. I produce other people's records as well, and one of the things that I do on my own records and with artists that I produce is that I try to not show anybody the songs before we go in to the studio, because I like that, first instinct thing to happen. So that was one aspect. Another aspect was that we wanted to do it all live, as many little overdubs as possible. And the writing process was interesting because it went through some different phases. It started out as one thing, and then it turned into a concept record, and then we kind of lost the concept record concept, and it turned into something else. But all were equally important in retrospect to get it to where it is.
Cool. So what was it like laying it all down live? I assume that's not how you usually do it. So why did you decide to work like that?
Well, I do usually do it that way. I really like to do it that way, actually, and it was great. I love working with people live in the studio, and I think there's nothing quite like it. And when I listen to records, sometimes I notice that something sounds a little bit too put together, like each instrument was done after the fact or whatever. And so I think when you listen to the record, you can hear the reactivity of each of us working off of one another. And that's what it felt like in the room. There's a lot of listening happening.
Right.
And it was a very fun experience because we didn't chart it out or make arrangements that were, perfect, that we had to adhere to perfectly. It was sort of like, let's just see what happens. And I love that.
Okay. Very cool. I've read some of the press that's come along with it. And my understanding from reading that is that you kind of were looking back at stuff that you grew up with and kind of punk and hip hop and that kind of stuff. So how does that fit into what we hear the end product here on Lava Lamp? It's
definitely more gritty and edgy than anything I've ever done before.
Okay.
And I've sort of been afraid to allow myself to play electric music in my solo career. I've done it a bit, and I've done it on other things that I've been a part of. But I think it's something about starting out as like an acoustic Americana songwriter and feeling sort of entrapped in that. When in fact I actually started out as a blues electric guitar player. That was what I fell in love with as a just fan of music and as a guitar player and a musician. So it felt like a step in the right direction for me. I was kind of losing steam before this on the acoustic stuff live. It wasn't carrying me where I wanted to be, just inwardly. And so I feel like this has given me a whole new life, being able to make this record and go back to some of those early influences and rediscover like why am I really playing music? What do I love about it?
Right. So who are some of those early influences?
Oh man. Well, I always say that the first that's a tough one. I shouldn't say the first because then I'm getting nitpicky, but I was thinking about Buddy Guy because he was one of the first blues artists that I ever listened to, knowing what the blues even was as a as a genre. Because I listened to a lot of that growing up, but I didn't really know what it was exactly until later. And so Buddy Guy was a big one. Eric Clapton was a big one. And then from there, I just got interested in all different kinds of stuff, like the acoustic stuff. Like I remember listening to a lot of Doc Watson and Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, and that kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, I was picking up things from people my age that were listening to like, let's see, like the Strokes and the Killers and Gorillaz and things like that as
Right,
well.
right.
And
And I think I read you were inspired by the Pixies somewhere along the line. So how's that fit in?
yes. Well, I've always loved what I've heard of the Pixies, but I didn't really know that much. I knew the couple of songs that most
Yep.
people know,
Right.
from Fight Club and whatever. Um, but my wife is a big fan, and knowing that, I saw that they were coming to the Fillmore in Philadelphia, and so I bought tickets for her and I to see them for a Valentine's Day gift one year, and went to that concert. And it was like the first time I'd ever really seen a concert like that.
Right.
I'd never seen like a real rock concert before with like the legends doing it, and
Yeah.
it just blew me away. It completely opened my mind to uh, not only going back to some of those early influences, um, but listening to things that I hadn't listened to before and thinking maybe I want to do something like this, because that energy, what it's like when you're at a rock concert. It's not like anything else, and so I wanted to bring some of that energy to this record.
Yep. I see you've done a video for the title track for Lava Lamp. So,
Yes.
and it's pretty cool. So what can you tell me about the song, about the video? Why is it what it is?
When I watch my lava lamp, I don't wanna feel a fucking thing, no. When I watch my lava lamp, I don't wanna feel a fucking thing, no.
Well, it's a good segue because the first time, first time I sat down with a guitar after that Pixies concert, that was the song that came out.
Cool.
And it was partly inspired by that, partly inspired by some other things I had been listening to. And that song was actually I was talking about being afraid to do something, like play electric stuff. After I wrote that song, I was sort of afraid of what I had created because I didn't think it was any good. I was like,
Right.
this is ridiculous. Why did I write this song? And in fact, I didn't show my co-producer the song until like the very last song of our pre-production session, because I was like, okay, I have one more. It's kind of, I went into this whole thing, all of the caveats and whatever. And I said, and here's the song. And it, ironically became his favorite song, like instantly, of any of them that I had shown him. And it's really because of him that the record took the shape it did, because he saw the energy that I had with this song, and it was like, just not. It was a raw piece of work that wasn't trying to be anything, and it was sort of vulnerable also in this interesting kind of way, and I was just scared to show that part of myself, or even allow myself to sing like that, or to write a song or perform a song like it. So I think it's because of him that
Cool.
the record became that way.
And how did the video get that way?
Yeah, so let's see. Well, I work with a great project manager named Mac White at Yep Rock. Shout out to him.
Okay.
And we were trying to figure out what are we going to do for a music video, who's going to do the music video. He had made the suggestion of this this artist Kendra Morse, and so I checked out a bunch of other things that he sent, and Kendra was by far the most, like, I was just super into it, and we had a video call, and I saw some of her stuff, and so that's how it came together, was really just because of Mac and Kendra, like, and the concept just was mostly her idea.
All righty. Now, most of the songs, the majority of them are songs that you have written, although there are a couple of covers. So, of course, we touched on those. Can You Drive is a Josh Flowers tune. Why are you doing that?
I love you for the car you drive. Yeah. I love you for the car you drive. Yeah.
Well, I was out in London for the Americana UK Fest, and I had one day off on this tour. It was like a pretty busy tour. I just wanted to rest, but my buddy said, "We're playing some ambient music at this life drawing, nude drawing thing, and we're gonna play for 2 hours. Do you want to come sit in on electric guitar?" And I was like, "That sounds like I can't really pass that up. That sounds pretty fun." So I went and with my buddy Joe Harvey White, great pedal steel player. And this guy, Josh Flowers, was there. I'd never met him before. And so it was kind of a funny thing meeting a new person in this kind of scenario and just immediately collaborating for 2 hours, just making up instrumental, experimental stuff. And then afterwards, I was like, what kind of stuff do you like to write? Blah, blah, blah. We talked about John Prine. That was a mutual influence.
Right.
Became interested in his songs. Was listening to his Spotify, I think, on the train the next day, and I heard that song. He has a great version of it as well, and I was like, this is a really cool version. It's a great song, and I hear another version that would be different, and it was sort of in line with this new alternative, little bit of alternative rock stuff, grunginess, and I thought it could work really nicely on the record.
Cool. Everybody's talking about John Prine these days, which is great. Poor guy is no longer with us, but
yeah.
His record label is still going well and signing up new people. And the other person everybody's talking about is Tom Petty, and you've covered Grew Up Fast.
Yeah.
How did you pick that one out of the Petty library tunes?
We grew up fast, and no one seemed to notice. We grew up fast, and we grew up alone. Mom and Dad were never what we wanted. We grew up fast, and we grew up alone.
Well, man, I did not know about that song. I got asked to do, my buddy Dylan Seavey was putting together a tribute for, I'm going to get the birthday wrong, but it was like, one of his big birthdays, whatever it was. And so he sent me a list of songs, because I came late to the game and all the songs I knew were taken. So he gave me this list of like 8 songs I'd never heard of before. And I went through it. I checked out this one, and I was like, this is pretty cool. But it was in a different way than the Josh Flowers song. I was listening to it. I was like, this is a cool song, but I don't really like the way he did it. But it's a really cool song. I think it could be done differently.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I actually adjusted, like I took out this one line that was like not to my taste. And so we ended up just recording it for the tribute thing. And then we took that recording because we really liked the way it worked out, and we put that on the record.
Yeah, I see. All right. And so that kind of gets you to the end of the album. There's a 6-minute plus tune called Bridge, and which is kind of slow and soulful and sparse. And then you get to Wooden Leg, which is anything but.
Yeah, I can't find my wooden leg. Yeah, I can't find my wooden leg.
Well, I wanted to surprise people. I like the idea of how do I put this? Sort of poking fun at things in general and not taking myself so seriously, not taking anything too seriously. And so I wanted to put that song on the record because it was just really fun. It was a really fun song to record, and I felt like it was sort of a screw you to the whole like feeling of what I had been doing before this record,
right?
Which was like being more sensitive and vulnerable about certain things. Like my last record was a divorce record,
right? Okay, all right.
And so like I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna make this. I'm gonna put this on Wooden Leg on here, and it's just gonna be. I'm just gonna let it fly, and it sort of allowed me to be free in this other kind of way, and this rebellious way, because I was a pretty rebellious kid growing up, and so I was able to sneak a little bit of that energy onto the the record through that song, I think,
Cool.
and
Kinda remind-
through some of the other songs. Yeah.
Kind of remind me of Neil Young doing like Farmer John at the end of his or something. You know, he's just like,
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you taking this show on the road? Are you doing gigs? What's happening?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm a little down today because we just finished a tour.
Oh.
And before we started it, I was thinking, man, I don't want to keep doing this anymore. And then when we were out there, I was like, this is the most fun I've ever had.
Right, there you go. Were you playing with the same folks that you made the record with?
Yes and no. So I was playing with Nick Coolidge, who's the bass player and engineer and co-producer, and then the drummer that I recorded with wasn't able to do it, so I was working with a former drummer of mine we hadn't played together in years. He played on my record 1,000 Mile Night, and we just had this reconnection. And Michael Bosco is his name. The three of us just like, man, I've never had a better band in my life.
Right. Oh, cool.
It's so much fun, and I honestly thought that I might stop doing this.
Right.
In terms of playing live, I never would stop playing music, but I was getting a bit tired of not making money, losing money on the road and everything like that. But these guys, man, they just made me want to keep doing it. And now I have more energy than I ever have before.
Nice. So you thinking about what you're going to do next? You got songs in the can?
I do, but I want to just start new and see if I can write, a completely new thing, and then I'll look back probably at what I have and see if any of those fit into there.
Right.
But I know that it's going to be a very electric guitar based. I love playing electric guitar, especially blues and soul and rock-ish inspired. Right. Guitar, and that's my plan, is for it to be that. It's probably going to be this power trio thing, maybe add an organ to it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
You ever been down to this part of the world, down to New Zealand, Australia?
I never have, no.
Well, there's always that.
Yeah. Well, my manager is Elin Jules drummer, Jason Beek, and he's, I know Elin tours down there a lot, and so I've heard through him about it being incredible. And
cool.
I would love to check it out.
All righty. Well, that's fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for talking with me. I really appreciate it. Love the record.
Thanks.
Hope it does well. Hang in there. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Right. You too.
Bye-bye.